Hi, how you doing? So, as you probably know, there are a lot of ways to get coins in Hypixel SkyBlock. You can level up your skills to get coins, you can get lucky to get coins, you can even just pick up coins off the floor to get coins. But there's one problem with all of these methods. Quite frankly, they suck. A good money-making method consists of two properties that are absolutely indispensable. It must be easily repeatable and it must make a decent amount of money. For example, with picking up coins off the floor, it is absolutely easily repeatable, but it doesn't make good money. But say getting lucky is absolutely amazing money, but it simply isn't easily repeatable. And something like leveling up your skills is not only horrendous money, you can hardly repeat it. A good money-making method needs to have a balance between repeatability and money. So let me ask you a question. What is the absolute best money-making method? A method that is perfect in both repeatability and money. Is there even such a method? Well, yes, there is, and it's possible that you know about it. In fact, it's even possible that you do this method yourself. It's called IRL Trading. Just so we're clear, IRL Trading is when you're exchanging real-life money for in-game items or currency. Let's say that player 1 is an IRL trader and player 2 is in need of coins. Player 2 will pay player 1 real-life money in exchange for SkyBlock coins. This is an example of IRL trading, and if caught, both player 1 and player 2 will likely face bans and profile wipes. So I have another question. Theoretically, can you make a living off of IRL trading? What I mean by that is, can you fully sustain yourself for your entire life with the money you get from IRL trading? Well, to answer this question, we need to know how much money you'll use in your average year. This is Steve. Steve is your average male newborn baby born in the USA with no known genetic disorders in his family. From ages 0 to 18, Steve pays nothing as his parents provide him with the money he needs to get an education. But Steve doesn't need an education because he'll be IRL trading as his job. Steve moves out of his parents' house when he graduates high school. He decides to rent an average one-bedroom apartment, which according to Google is $1,713 per month. Also, according to Google, Steve will spend $300 a month on food and $266 a month on utilities such as water, internet, etc. I believe that's all monthly expenses. I don't really know since I don't pay the bills, but do let me know if I missed anything. Steve's monthly expenses come out to $2,279 per month, but I'll round this up to $3,000 in case I missed or misresearched any expenses and for Steve's spending money. That means that Steve must make a minimum of $36,000 per year IRL trading. Now that we have how much money Steve will use per year, we need to know what the dollar to SkyBlock coin exchange rate is. But honestly, I have no clue what it is. I couldn't actually join any IRL trading Discord server to see their prices because, well, I simply don't use Discord, and the most recent YouTube videos on IRL trading are from over a year ago. So I just asked in a Dwarven Mines lobby with 20 other people. And now those 20 other people probably think I'm going to IRL trade. But hey, on the bright side, I have the exchange rate, which is apparently 2 cents per million SkyBlock coins. Now that we have our exchange rate, we need to find the method in which Steve is actually making the coins. As stated before, there are a lot of methods to make coins, but there's one method that sticks out the most. Mining. Mining what, you may ask? It's very simple. I don't know. I have genuinely no clue what makes the most amount of money in mining on a normal profile because, well, I play on an Iron Man profile, not a normal profile. Of course, there are several hundred guides to mining that advertise absolutely insane rates, but I don't know how credible these methods are because I've never done them because I don't play on a normal profile. So I'll just assume Steve is using a common Iron Man method of mining diamonds. It's not only amazing money, but there's another reason why it's so good, and I'll explain that later. For me, mining diamonds makes roughly 27 million coins per hour, but I don't have the best setup and I'm pretty skill issued at mining, so we can just round this up to 30 million coins per hour. When mining diamonds for 30 million coins per hour with an exchange rate of 2 cents per million, Steve would be earning a grand total of roughly 60 cents per hour, which is not a lot. Assuming that 100% of coins Steve made are being bought and Steve mines for 8 hours a day like your normal 9 to 5, Steve would be making a whopping $4.80 per day. That's $1,752 per year, assuming that Steve had 0 break days, which is obviously not even close to our $36,000 baseline. And this is assuming that Steve doesn't get banned, which is not only $30 for a new account, but also a whole bunch of coins for mining gear. So no, Steve cannot provide for himself with IRL trading. It looks like he'll need to get a job. But maybe Steve doesn't need to get a job. Do you remember that time when I said, it's not only amazing money, but there's another reason why it's so good, and I'll explain that later. Well, that reason is quite simple. It's because mining diamonds is macroable. A macro instruction, or a macro, is defined as a programmable pattern which translates a certain sequence of input into a preset sequence of output. If you didn't understand anything I just said, don't worry, I didn't either. Macros are kind of like the keys on your keyboard. If you press a key, say the T key, it'll do set command, which is typing the letter T. If you activate a macro, it'll do set command or commands, which is whatever you programmed it to do. For example, let's say I programmed a macro so that whenever it activates the macro, it input W, D, and left click for, say, a minute and 13 seconds. Once the minute and 13 seconds are over, the macro would input W, A, and left click for another minute and 13 seconds. After another minute and 13 seconds, it would go back to W, D, and left click, and so on and so forth. Then, let's say after 4 repetitions, the macro would type a random string of letters like /garden, and the macro would repeat itself. Congratulations, you now have a very simple melon macro. At least I would assume, because I don't macro. Essentially, the point of using a macro is to automatically do set commands for you, and this macro will run regardless of whether you're there or not. So what if we use this for mining diamonds? Well, instead of mining diamonds for 8 hours a day, Steve could instead macro diamonds 24/7, which really isn't that significant. Instead of $4.80 per day, Steve would be making $4.40 per day, which is a whopping $5,256 per day. And last time I checked, 5,256 does not equal 36,000. So is Steve's fate sealed? Is he truly forced to get a job? Well, no. You see, Minecraft is a game, and normally games can be bought twice, or 3 times, or 100 times. And if you buy Minecraft 100 times, you'll have 100 accounts. And each one of these accounts can log on to Hypixel, and each one of these accounts can play SkyBlock, and each one of these accounts can macro diamonds, and each one of these accounts can IRL trade. This means that Steve can have really any number of accounts macroing in IRL trading. In fact, Steve would only need around 7 accounts macroing diamonds to fully sustain himself. So yes, you absolutely can IRL trade to sustain yourself. Oh, hey, you stuck around to the end of the video, thank you. I just want to say that these numbers are absolutely not accurate because I'm assuming quite a couple of things here. 100% of coins made are being bought, which if you tried this for yourself, unless you're extremely lucky, it won't happen. Steve receives no bans on any of his accounts, which also won't happen because you're macroing 24/7. The dollar to coin exchange rate stays the same, which also won't happen because you're just pouring money into the economy, and Hypixel doesn't change diamond mining. Okay, thanks for watching.